You see a video online, a disaster, a confession, a world leader saying something shocking. The footage looks real. Clear audio, natural movement, no obvious manipulation, and yet a small doubt appears. Did this actually happen? That question used to be rare. Now it's becoming normal. Because today, convincing events can be generated by systems that never saw a camera, a location, or a witness. When evidence can be fabricated faster than it can be verified, shared reality begins to fracture. Reality still exists, but agreement about it begins to weaken. That's the shift. Not when media became editable, when certainty itself started fading. For most of our history, reality had a simple structure. Events happened, evidence followed, someone recorded the moment. A camera captured a protest, a journalist documented a speech, a witness filmed an accident. Evidence meant someone had been there. That physical presence quietly anchored belief. Courts relied on recordings. News organizations trusted footage. Investigators followed digital trails. If enough people saw the same thing, disagreement could still exist. But the event itself remained fixed. When evidence depended on real events, reality stayed shared. People might argue about interpretation, but not about whether something happened. You experience that instinct yourself. When a dramatic clip appears online, your first reaction is to assume someone was there filming it. The camera itself feels like proof. For decades, that assumption shaped how people understood the world. But the moment reality can no longer be confirmed, agreement about reality begins to weaken. That's where things begin to change. Today, media can be created without events ever occurring. Generative systems simulate lighting, motion, facial expressions, voice tone. They calculate what something should look like and produce it instantly. In 2023, a song appeared online that sounded exactly like Drake and The Weeknd collaborating. Millions listened. Many assumed it was a leaked recording. The voices were perfect. The production sounded authentic. For days, listeners argued about whether the track was real. Only later did it become clear the entire song had been generated by AI. The artists had never recorded it. But the evidence sounded convincing enough that millions believed they had. Examples like this are appearing everywhere. Images, voices, video clips, all generated from probability rather than captured reality. And systems that generate media are improving faster than the systems designed to verify it. Because of this, technology companies and news organizations are now developing verification systems that attach cryptographic signatures to photos and videos at the moment they are captured. The goal is simple: prove that something came from a real camera. Because soon, seeing something may no longer be enough. When generation becomes easier than verification, certainty begins to erode. You may have already felt the beginning of that shift. A video appears online, something dramatic. You pause for a moment before believing it, not because it looks fake, but because you realize it could be. That hesitation didn't exist a few years ago, and once it appears, it rarely disappears. The real change happens slowly. Different people begin trusting different evidence. A recording circulates. Some believe it immediately. Others assume it's generated. The event itself becomes secondary to the argument about authenticity. This has already appeared during elections. In several countries, AI-generated robocalls impersonating political candidates spread before officials could confirm they were fake. Millions heard the recording. Many reacted before corrections appeared. The voice sounded real, the words felt real, but the speaker never said them. When verification cannot keep pace with generation, shared reality begins to fragment. People no longer argue only about meaning. They argue about existence, what happened, what didn't, and what might have been generated. Even when corrections arrive, the emotional memory of the original moment remains, because people remember how something felt long after the explanation appears. And the strange part is, even when we know media can be manipulated, we still react emotionally first and question authenticity later. That instinct doesn't disappear easily. Meaning forms faster than verification. You may already feel the beginning of this shift. A video appears online, something shocking, and instead of reacting immediately, you pause. Not because it looks fake, but because you realize you can't actually know if it's real. That hesitation didn't exist a few years ago, and once it appears, it rarely disappears. Nothing collapses overnight. Journalists still investigate. Courts still examine evidence. Reality still exists. But something subtle changes. Seeing something no longer settles arguments. Video requires authentication. Audio requires analysis. Images require verification. Investigators now examine compression artifacts, digital fingerprints, and patterns left by generation systems to determine whether recordings are genuine. Photographs and videos are beginning to include cryptographic signatures, proving they were captured by real devices. Trust slowly shifts away from what people see and towards systems that confirm authenticity. When truth depends on verification infrastructure, authority quietly moves away from human perception, from people towards systems. You may notice this change the next time a shocking clip appears online. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" you might find yourself asking, "Has anyone confirmed this yet?" Reality begins dividing into two layers: what appears real, and what systems confirm as real. Manufactured events don't need to replace truth completely. They only need to introduce doubt, because once doubt becomes permanent, certainty disappears first. And once certainty disappears, agreement becomes fragile. The world itself hasn't disappeared, but shared confidence in it fades. Evidence survives. Consensus doesn't. If people can no longer agree on what happened, what holds society together? If this felt unsettling, it's because shared reality has always been one of the quiet foundations of human society. People don't have to agree about everything, but they usually agree about what actually happened. Now that foundation is changing, tap like if this helped you recognize how quickly certainty is shifting. Subscribe to become part of The Unlocked, where we explore what remains human as intelligence and technology reshape the world around us. And if someone you know believes the internet only changes information, share this with them. Because the deeper change isn't technology. It's what happens when reality itself becomes uncertain. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here.